Welcome to the Step Ballers channel. This is our first video, so we might as well introduce ourselves. I'm Tom, and this is my brother James.
Hello.
Great. Anyway, we're going to be breaking down the first round of the 2026 NBA playoffs. Today's video is focusing on the Western Conference, but we'll post a separate one for the East.
Yeah, we're going to go matchup by matchup. We're going to discuss each series and how it went down. Right off the top, we just want to be clear that some of these series are going to get a little bit more attention than others.
Yeah, and that's due to some of them being far more competitive and interesting to talk about than others.
Yeah, with that being said, if you enjoy the video, please give it a like and hit the subscribe button. There's going to be plenty more videos on the way.
Let's dive right in and get to it.
We're out west now for the 1v8 matchup with the reigning champion Oklahoma City Thunder looking to kick off their title defense in style against the Phoenix Suns. Phoenix put together a surprisingly competitive season and managed to secure the 8 seed through the play-in, but the question was always going to be in this series is whether they can actually compete with the Oklahoma City Thunder.
Look, will they be competitive in this series? No. Unfortunately, this series went the way most people would assume. A quick 4-0 sweep where the Thunder were dominant end-to-end in almost every game.
Yeah, in Game 1, the Thunder quickly took control. They forced 17 turnovers, with 13 of those coming off of steals. Even though Dillon Brooks did do a decent job of keeping Shai to 5 for 18 shooting, Shai's elite ability to draw fouls and get to the line was enough to overcome that as he went 15 from 17 from the stripe.
Jalen Williams had a really solid game as well, adding 22, 7 and 6. Devin Booker had a decent offensive game, but Jalen Green struggled in his Phoenix playoff debut, and the Suns simply did not have enough creation or depth to keep up.
Yeah, Game 2 was a repeat of Game 1. The Thunder once again wreaked havoc defensively. They tallied 14 steals this time and forced 21 turnovers.
Brooks was the Suns' only real offensive threat in this one, finishing with 30, while Booker's lack of shot creation attempts and 5 turnovers were a problem for Phoenix.
Yeah, Shai found his rhythm from the field, finishing with 37 points and 9 assists. The supporting cast chipped in efficiently on offense while also providing elite defense, which is exactly what makes the Thunder so hard to beat in a 7-game series.
The only issue for the Thunder that was Jalen Williams going down with a grade 1 hamstring strain, which ended up being the last game he played in this series.
Yeah, and despite the injury to his co-star, Shai continued his hot playoff form in Game 3, dropped a 42-point bomb on absurd efficiency. Brooks managed to score his back-to-back 30-piece, but it simply showed that it takes way more than one player to beat this Thunder team.
The shooting guard duo of Mitchell and Wallace was held to 7 for 28 shooting, but with the depth of Oklahoma City, that becomes almost irrelevant in games like this. The Thunder win and take a 3-0 lead.
On to Game 4, Shai had his usual 30-piece, but the MVP of this closeout game was Chet Holmgren, who supplied an efficient 24 points along with 12 rebounds. He was providing elite help defense all series, and he got rewarded here with a big offensive game as well.
If there is a bright side for the Suns, it's that Colin Gillespie finally found space to chip in 20 points, but it was too little, too late. The Thunder swept the Suns and gave everyone a light preview of what could be coming in these playoffs.
Yeah, and just a few final notes on this series. The Suns only won 2 of the 16 quarters that were played. That just shows the gap between these two teams.
And playing Jalen Green gave everyone hope that he had finally found his spot in Phoenix, but that was not the case once again. 22 points per game on 21 shots is just bad basketball.
Anyway, the Thunder move on to the second round. Looking now at the 2v7 matchup, we have the San Antonio Spurs taking on the Portland Trail Blazers. This was a series where the talent difference felt quite sizable from the beginning, especially with the Spurs' defensive depth and having a 7'4" alien deterring everything at the rim.
Game 1 was a comfortable Spurs win overall. The Blazers had good patches and showed life in the fourth, but it was clear the Spurs were in control.
Yeah, Denny Avdija came out strong, had 32 points, 10 rebounds, 5 assists in his playoff debut, and Scoot Henderson added 18 on good efficiency as well. But outside of those two players, Portland really struggled to make shots, shooting just 43% from the field and 26% from 3 on the game.
On the other end, Portland tried to give Robert Williams and Tamani Kamara the tough defensive assignments on Wemby, but the lack of size made it very difficult to contest or prevent his jump shots. The couple of times Clingan was forced to guard Wemby were rough as well.
The Spurs comfortably take Game 1 and lead the series 1-0. Game 2 was much more even, with nothing separating the teams at the main break. Scoot came out scorching with 19 first half points.
But the big headline came at the 9-minute mark of the second quarter, when Victor Wembanyama came down hard on his face under the basket, leaving him with a concussion and forcing him to sit out the remainder of the game.
Yeah, and after that, the Spurs really struggled to score, and the defensive impact was obviously missing. Scoot and the Blazers were able to do enough here to secure a much-needed 3-point win, tie up the series 1-1.
Then the main question came, whether Wemby would return for Game 3. Game 3 rolled around, and Wemby was confirmed out for the Spurs, which made the challenge a whole lot tougher.
Yeah, the Blazers opened up a 6-point lead at the half behind another strong showing from Scoot Henderson, as well as Drew Holiday chipping in 17 points. Grant and Williams also added useful minutes off the bench, and it looked like Portland might be able to give San Antonio a genuine run for their money.
But in the second half, the game flipped. A lot of that came from the Spurs guard trio of Fox, Castle and Harper. Harper specifically had 22 points in the second half and was a plus 24 in the second half alone. A truly special game from the rookie.
Yeah, and Castle finished with 33 points and 5 assists to lead the Spurs, and Luke Cornett gave them some valuable minutes filling in for Wemby. The Spurs take a 2-1 lead and hope their superstar big man will be back in action for the fourth game.
Before Game 4, it was confirmed that Wemby was back and playing. Despite that, the Blazers came out strong and took a huge 19-point lead midway through the game.
And that half ended up being the last positive thing to come out of this series for Portland. The Spurs came back in the second half, took the lead, and ultimately won the game by 21 points.
Wemby capped off his return with 27 points, 12 rebounds, 4 steals and 7 blocks. Truly ridiculous stuff from the DPOY. The Spurs took a 3-1 lead after a dominant second half and completely stole the momentum of the game.
Yep, and Game 5 was back in San Antonio, with the Spurs having a chance to end the series early and earn some rest before the second round.
The Spurs came out scorching hot, claiming a 12-point lead at the first break before extending it to 20 at halftime. They shot 67% in the first half to Portland's 37%.
And that was basically all she wrote. The Blazers again struggled in the second half, and the Spurs rolled on to claim the series in a 4-1 gentleman's sweep. Probably would have been 4-0 if Wemby was not, getting hurt in Game 2.
Wemby averaged 21 points, 9 rebounds, and 4 blocks across his 4 games, while shooting 58% from the field and 53% from 3. Truly special numbers.
Yeah, and Scoot Henderson showed some promising signs as well. He averaged 15 points on 47.5% from the field, and that's against the tough defense of Castle and Fox. He had a real standout couple games at the beginning of the series, but his impact did fade as the series went on.
The Spurs move on to the second round, and most importantly, Wemby is healthy and firing. Let's see what happens next round.
We now have the 3-seed Denver Nuggets coming up against the 6-seed Minnesota Timberwolves. Two teams with some interesting playoff history, with their previous series going 7 games in favor of the Timberwolves.
We start in Game 1, where Jokic and Murray combined for 55 points. Jokic also put up a triple-double despite 5 turnovers, and some excellent defense from Rudy Gobert.
Yeah, and Murray struggled from the field in this one, went going 7 for 22, but he hit a ridiculous 16 for 16 from the free throw line to pace the Nuggets and secure the win.
On the Wolves side, their offense was serviceable, without being groundbreaking, but their inability to control their fouls was the biggest problem. They gave up 33 free throws, and Denver capitalized by hitting 30 of them.
Yeah, Game 2 is really where this series got interesting. Denver started hot, took a 14-point lead after the first quarter, but the Wolves' defense got more and more relentless as the game went on.
In the fourth quarter, the Wolves held Jokic and Murray to a combined 2 for 12 from the field, with McDaniels and Gobert absolutely swallowing up every possession.
And on the other end, DiVincenzo and Randall hit huge clutch buckets, including a couple of pivotal threes from Dante, and they proved to be the difference. Anthony Edwards was solid all game, finishing with 30 points and 10 rebounds.
Yeah, and it really felt like the Wolves solved part of the puzzle by guarding Jokic and Murray. It is rare to see a team avoid throwing double coverage at Jokic in the post, but Minnesota trusted Gobert one-on-one, and it completely shifted the vibe of the series.
After Game 2, Jaden McDaniels was asked what the key was to the Wolves' offensive rhythm, and he responded, "Go after Jokic, Jamal, all the bad defenders. Tim Hardaway, Cam Johnson, Aaron Gordon, the whole team, just go at them. They're all bad defenders." I think this comment really shaped what became a fiery series.
Then Aaron Gordon was announced out for Game 3 with calf tightness, which added fuel to the fire and made a real difference for Denver.
Game 3 started, and the defensive pressure from Game 2 seemed to roll straight over. Jokic began the game struggling against the immaculate defense of Rudy Gobert, while Murray couldn't get much going either.
If you are going to question what the best defensive game of the year was, this has to be right up there. McDaniels and Gobert held the all-star duo of Jokic and Murray to 27% and 29% shooting across the game.
The Wolves comfortably took Game 3, giving them a 2-1 lead. Offensively, Ayo Dosunmu was huge off the bench, putting up 25 points and 9 assists, Jaden McDaniels also backed up his comments with 20 and 10 on top of what he was already doing defensively.
Spencer Jones also had to step up for Denver with Aaron Gordon out. He was not terrible by any means, but his production does not match what Gordon can do. And Denver looked limited athletically compared to Minnesota.
Game 4 started with a disaster for the Wolves. Dante DiVincenzo went down early in the first quarter, clutching at his right foot with what looked like to be an all too familiar Achilles injury.
Then after a poor start shooting the ball, Ant left the game with just 17 minutes and was seen heading to the locker room. He did not return due to severe left knee hyperextension and knee bone bruising. It was an ugly injury to see.
Yeah, and given the injury situation, you would think that Denver would find a way to get on top here, but one Wolves player in particular decided that was not going to happen.
The Ayo Dosunmu onslaught begun, and by the end of the game, he finished with a 43-point masterclass off the bench, the second highest ever recorded game off the bench in a playoff game, and he did it on 13 for 17 shooting. Absolutely absurd.
Yeah, and after all the horrible injury moments early in this game, Minnesota somehow had Denver on the ropes with a 3-1 lead.
Game 5 was back in Denver, and the Nuggets kept the series alive behind Jokic's best game of the series. He finished with 27, 12, and 17, while Cam Johnson and Spencer Jones stepped up big time, combining for 38 on elite shooting.
Murray again struggled with this shooting, but his teammates definitely made up for it, and Denver got the job done by 12 and kept the faith alive for the home fans.
Yeah, one more key thing from this game was Naz Reid going down with an ankle injury in the third, adding to Minnesota's already concerning injury list. At this point, it really felt like the scales might be tipping back towards Denver.
Back in Minnesota for Game 6, the Nuggets were fighting to keep their series alive, while the Timberwolves were undermanned and trying to finish the series off here.
This game was massive for the Wolves, because a loss would mean heading to Game 7 in Denver.
And 2 hours before the game, Ayo Dosunmu was listed out, making the injury list even worse. But if you can't have your original star trio due to injury, you have to rely on role players to step up, and boy did they ever do that.
Jaden McDaniels finished with 32 points, 10 rebounds, and 3 stocks. Terrence Shannon Jr. added 24 points, 6 rebounds, and 2 steals. And Rudy Gobert, the star of the whole series, 10 points, 13 rebounds, 8 assists, and 3 stocks. The list goes on, and they've had many players add to their scoring.
Jamal Murray gave us a series summary in one game, shooting 4 for 17 and finishing a negative 18 in 40 minutes.
Ayo Dosunmu was huge this series, offensively and defensively on Jamal Murray. He averaged 21.8 points on 61% from the field and 55% from 3, along with 4 assists. This guy was the difference maker, especially considering the injuries that went down from Game 4 onwards.
Yeah, so the Wolves take the series and they head to the second round. A few quick notes on this one before we move on. Valanciunas provided some good backup minutes for Jokic in the series, but the Nuggets bench is so weak, and it was probably one of the main differentials within the success of this series. Do we really want players like Tyus Jones playing 13 minutes a night? Probably not. And another thing that's interesting is Jokic has now never beaten a 50-win team in a series throughout his whole career. And this will mark the second time that the Timberwolves, as underdogs, have come in and beaten the Nuggets.
We finish off today's video with Lakers vs Rockets, and Game 1 has the Lakers coming in as clear underdogs.
Yeah, without Luka or Austin Reeves, the Lakers were missing 2 of their top leading scorers, so they needed the offense to come from somewhere else. Luckily for them, Luke Kennard and Marcus Smart were ready for the moment. On the other side, the Rockets would be missing Kevin Durant for the first game as well.
LeBron as well, at the age of 41, also gave us flashes of those old Cleveland carry job days, finishing with 19, 8, and 13.
For LA, Ayton also added 19 and 11, providing a strong scoring and rebounding presence on the inside, whereas for Houston, Amen Thompson had 17, 7, and 4 stocks, while Tari Eason was excellent off the bench with 16 and 10 on a perfect 7 for 7 shooting night. But it would not be enough for the Rockets.
The big difference overall in this game was efficiency. The Lakers shot 40 for 66 from the field, which is good for 61%, whereas the Rockets converted just 35 out of 93 at 38%.
Houston also had 21 offensive rebounds, while the Lakers had just 3, and the Rockets still somehow lost by 9 despite having 27 extra chances.
Every Rockets player finished with a negative plus-minus, and the Lakers took Game 1, 107-98, in a pretty impressive underdog win.
Game 2 saw Kevin Durant returning for Houston, but it ended up being quite short-lived, as this would be the only game he'd play in the whole series.
Durant would finish with 23 points but 9 turnovers, and he only managed to take 12 shots in his 40 minutes of game time. Sengun paced the Rockets with 20 points, 11 rebounds, and 6 stocks, but the Rockets could not find enough reliable offense to really get going in this one.
The bench was a real issue. Shepherd, Holiday, and Tate combined to go 0 for 8 from the field, and Tari Eason came back down to earth after game 1, taking a few too many shots in this one and ending up 4 for 14.
For LA though, LeBron was again a force of nature, tallying 28, 8, and 7. Once again, he is 41. Marcus Smart added a huge 25, 7, and 6 steals, while Kennard continued his good form by chipping in 23.
Yeah, the Lakers managed just 6 total bench points in this one, but the rotation was tightened in this game and they relied heavily on the starters.
LA clinches another close win, taking Game 2 and going up 2-0 despite still missing their top scorers.
Game 3 is back in Houston, where you would expect things to get very tough for the undermanned Lakers despite their Game 1 and 2 heroics. Austin Reeves was listed as questionable going into this game and then got ruled out during the warm-ups, but at least that showed he was getting close to availability.
LeBron was massive again, putting up 29, 13, and 6 along with 4 stocks. Rui added 22 on 50% shooting from the field, while Marcus Smart has back-to-back fantastic games with 21, 10, and 7 stocks. Unreal stuff from the veteran.
The Lakers got better bench contributions as well in this one, even in their limited minutes.
For Houston, Sengun was excellent with 36, 11, and 6, and 4 stocks, while Thompson had one of his best games of the series, adding 26, 11, and 6 stocks.
The Rockets did, however, run their starters into the ground in this one. Every single starter played 43 minutes or more, and their highest played bench player was Finney Smith, who totaled only 11 minutes.
And the ending to Game 3 was a complete disaster for Houston. The Rockets were up by 6 with 25 seconds left in regulation and somehow still let it slip.
Yeah, the Lakers just kept extending the game with some unbelievable plays from Marcus Smart, and it was capped off by LeBron James, who got a steal in the backcourt on Reed Shepherd before lining up and knocking down the game-tying 3. This absolutely shell-shocked Houston, who seemingly had their playoffs back on track at this point and looked like they were going to win the game.
For an undermanned Lakers team, that was the exact kind of sequence you need. For Houston, it was the kind of collapse that kills a series. Up 6 with 25 seconds left in regulation, at home, and you end up losing in overtime to go down 3-0. That is brutal.
Game 4 stays in Houston, and with Reeves still listed out on the injury report, the Rockets were finally able to avoid the sweep here as they win this one by 19 points, behind a much better all-around effort from their starting 5.
Houston went much deeper into the bench as well, and got a real lift from Okogie, who finished as a plus 20 on the night. The Lakers, on the other hand, did struggle badly across the board. LeBron, who had been excellent in the first 3 games, struggled badly in this one, finishing on 2 for 9 shooting and 5 turnovers. Ayton was on a real positive for the Lakers, finishing with 19 and 10.
In Game 5, Reeves finally returns, but he struggles mightily from the field as he plays his first game off the bench. LeBron did play well, and the Lakers were more competitive here back on their home floor, but Houston did enough once again to cut the series lead back down to 3-2.
Yeah, the Rockets made it interesting with 2 straight wins, and they take advantage of LA's being short-handed. But even with Houston winning both, it still feels like these games just delayed the inevitable, really.
Yeah, heading back to Houston for Game 6, the Rockets had all the momentum and they were trying to force a Game 7, but LeBron wasn't going to let that happen.
LeBron finished with 28, 7, and 8, while Rui Hachimura added 21 and 6. Reeves was back properly in this one as well, putting up 15 points and 3 blocks.
Yeah, the Lakers had control basically the whole game, and they never looked likely of losing. They had a 27-3 run in the first half that broke the game wide open, and everyone that played real minutes for the Lakers finished with a positive plus-minus in this one. In the first half, the Rockets would join the Magic and the Hawks this postseason with having top 5 worst offensive halves in NBA history. They shot 29% from the field, 18% from 3, and 62% from the free throw line in what was really a horrid first half.
Yeah, wow, that's terrible. For Houston, Amen Thompson had 18, 8, and 3 blocks. Tari Eason added 14 and 3 steals, but Reed Shepherd really struggled. Not just this game, but the whole series, finishing 4 for 19 from the field and 1 for 10 from 3.
Yeah, it really was part of a rough series for Shepherd. He averaged 12 points on the series, 30% from the field and 30% from 3. It's not good.
One thing worth mentioning with Houston is that they were doing this without KD, who only played 1 game this series, and also without Fred VanVleet. Those are really massive absences, especially in regards to shot creation, composure, and late game offense. The very reason they went after KD was due to their half-court struggles in last year's playoffs.
So the Lakers closed this one out in 6 games, but neither squad was fully healthy. They're going to move on to face OKC Thunder now, who look just about unstoppable. It's going to be an extremely tough ask from LA without their best guy in Luka Doncic.
And that wraps up the first round out west. We had sweeps, underdog victories, and worrying injuries.
Now we move on to round 2. Some of the teams are cooking, and some still have some big questions to answer. Like, do the Lakers have a chance against OKC without Luka? Or can the hobbled Wolves overcome Wemby and the Spurs?
We'll be right back to break it all down. So if you enjoyed the video, make sure to like, subscribe, and let us know which round 2 matchup you're most excited for.
Yeah, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.